Hello, assalamu alaikum, and welcome back to the concluding session on tax reforms and amnesty package in Pakistan. I would like to thank you all for taking time out on a working day and on a Friday afternoon. It shows the massive interest our fraternity has on these practical-oriented topics. For those of you who missed the session yesterday, we did cover the tax reforms because there is a common perception. More focus has been on the amnesty aspect, and many people tend to overlook that there has been a tax reform package. The recording would be available online on ACC's channels, so I would not be repeating that. The presentation would be shared with you after the session. The ordinances are the same that were shared with you yesterday. So we're going to start now.
Just one thing, you sent me another presentation today. So that presentation has been uploaded.
It's been updated.
It has been updated and has been updated on the webinar as well. So if they download it now, they will be able to download the fresh
Fantastic. So in the handout section, you have the updated presentation at number 4, as well as the 4 relevant ordinances, and you can simply download them now. Thank you, Arun, sir.
And one more thing, if you can introduce your team members today as well, the panelists.
Hi. Rabbi Shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. O Allah, open my heart and ease my task for me and remove the impediments from my speech so that they may understand what I say. Today we have created a unique pattern for you. I'll begin by introducing some of our guest panelists as well as myself for those of you who are not aware of ourselves. The pattern today would be that after covering the ordinances, in between we'll be taking regular question-answer breaks where we'll be inviting some of our fellow members who are also part of our taxation committee, which I honored to have worked with the brilliant likes of these in my capacity as the chairman of the committee. Right now, we do have with us Mr. It's here. Okay. We have Mr. Munir Malik, one of our senior members in FCCA, who is based in Islamabad, and he's been working actively on the taxation subcommittee of ACCA's MNP. We also have with us Yawar Muhammad, who is based out of Peshawar, also another very talented and senior ACCA member. He's also on our ACCA taxation committee. We welcome you both, Munir and Yawar. Thank you for joining us. And they'll be contributing with us in this session today in the question answer session. So with that, let's start. Most of you would already know me. For those who don't, just a quick intro. I'm an FCCA and also honored to hold qualifications such as CFA, anti-money laundering, fraud prevention specialization, etc., along with 15 years plus fund of experience in top positions, working both in Pakistan as well as abroad. Honored to have received the Exceptional Public Value Awards and National Advocacy Awards by ACCA. I'm a member of the Global Tax Forum and chairing ACCA's Taxation Committee as well. Have extensive experience as a top taxation expert, currently serving as a managing partner corporate services at Millennium Law and Corporate Company, and also sit on the board of some corporate entities. With regard to training, I'm honored to have on my portfolio having conducted mandatory promotional trainings of government officers at MPDD and having conducted programs at various corporate, public sector, educational entities, etc., the likes of National Bank, Habib Bank, Lahore Chamber, Karachi Chamber, Pakistan, Lahore, Karachi Tax Bar, our very own ACCA, Barrier, UET, etc. For those of you who like to read, I'm a regular contributor on these technical issues in various English language dailies outlined here, ranging from Nation Time, Pakistan Today, Express Tribune to research journals such as Blue Chip. Also a life member and 4-time serving chairman License Committee Lahore Tax Bar, member of the MNP, and have served on the Finance, Economy and Taxation Committee of Lahore Chamber, advisor to several parliamentarians on taxation economic affairs, and also sit on the board of a few think tanks. That's pretty much about me. I'll skip the next few slides which just detail the key association and listing of academic professional associations. Just a quick professional acknowledgement that several research reports and obviously the formal copies of the ordinances have been used, and thanks to State Bank of Pakistan, National Bank, Finance Ministry, some financial institutions, and our own firms whose proprietary research has been used in this. The topic is such that we can extend it as much as we want. However, ACCA had designed the topic so that all the vital elements would be covered within the time period that we have, and we'll try to meet that within the time constraint. So, topic index, we have gone through the introduction and highlights. We have discussed in detail the tax reforms that have been made, their impact, etc. We have gone through one of the major ordinance, the local declaration of domestic assets ordinance, and we were moving on to foreign assets declaration and repatriation ordinance, which is the other major ordinance. We'll finish that, and then we'll, in the last session, go with the economic reform amendment and income tax amendment ordinance, which are not that bulky, so we should be able to run through them fairly quickly. Q&A session has been listed separately, but as you know, we'll be having regular Q&A session after the end of each topic. So these things were already discussed yesterday. You can download the presentation. We discussed the impact of various moves that have been made with regard to improving the tax structures and the reforms, the amnesty. So let's begin with the Foreign Assets Declaration and Repatriation Ordinance 2018. Yesterday, we went through the ordinance for the domestic assets, and we saw how they were defined, what were the prohibitions, what were the limitations, what were the applicability, what were the specific rates for certain categorizations, and how the assets were to be categorized. We also went through the process of claiming amnesty for the domestic assets. Now we are going to do that for the foreign assets. So in your hands out section, if you click on number 2, ordinance foreign assets.pdf, you'll have this in front of you. Okay. I hope you can all read this. So if you can just quickly let me know that this is readable for all of you. Just a quick response. Okay, so I believe everyone can see this. Great, let's move forward. So this is the ordinance with regard to the foreign assets that we have been referring to yesterday. Let's start with this. So we have the normal legal jargon in the beginning, the introduction of the ordinance under clause 1, article 89 of the Constitution, the reference to that under which the ordinance has been promulgated. Then we have the title and commencement date. And then we have the definitions. These are important from a legal perspective because you may have a certain concept of a particular term in your mind, but it may be that that's the very definition that's been used here, but it may be that that's somewhat different from this definition. So it doesn't matter what impression you have in your mind. The definition that's written here is the one that would prevail. So first of all, the cost of acquisition of the mortgage assets mean the sum of all the mortgage payments that have been made and any other mortgage cost with regard to the acquisition of the asset. The declarant means the person who is making a declaration under section 5. Fair market value, we all have the concept of that. It means the price of the foreign assets determined and declared by the declarant himself, but in no case is less than the cost of acquisition of the foreign assets. So effectively, the fair market value can only be the higher of the value you are declaring or your cost of acquisition. It can't be below that. But this is interesting that you, the declarant, by you I mean someone availing the amnesty, is the one who has to determine the fair market value, and there is no reference to any procedure challenging that. Do keep this point in mind because this is very important, and we'll be coming back to this during our discussion. Foreign assets mean any movable or immovable assets held outside Pakistan. Obviously, that would include all the real estate, mortgage assets, stock, share, bank accounts, any bullions, cash, jewels, painting accounts, loan receivable, beneficial ownership, beneficial interest, or contribution in offshore entities and trusts. Government security, we all know, but let's go through the definition anyway. A bond, note, or other debt instrument issued by the federal government with a promise of repayment upon maturity. Liquid assets mean, you all know that you're a qualified accountant, cash or an asset that can be readily converted into cash with a minimal impact on the asset's values, and includes not just bank notes, but also marketable securities, stocks, promissory note, government bond, deposit certificates, and any other similar instruments. Holder of public office, why this definition is important? Because you'll be seeing in the applicability section that holders of public office, their dependents and spouses are excluded from the terms of the entire amnesty, and with regard to this particular ordinance, it's embedded. Holder of public office means a person who is or has been at any time since 1st of January 2000 holding any of these offices. This is pretty standard, just like what we read in the domestic assets ordinance yesterday. So it covers the federal government, all the way from president, prime minister, to the cabinet, ministers, advisors, to the provincial government, chief ministers, speakers, provincial ministers, advocate generals, etc., the judiciary, chief justice, justices of federal Sharia court, high court, judicial officer, or anyone holding an office or post in the service of Pakistan or any service in connection with the affairs of the Federation. So obviously, we have discussed this yesterday. It would also cover your local government. Your local government, like the chairman, mayor, or vice chairman, deputy mayor of Zilla Council, municipal committee, etc., etc. This brings us to clause number 3. There has been a discussion that what if there are certain other laws which are in conflict with this ordinance? Is this ordinance really providing blanket protection, or are there some loopholes? The way this works is the law ministry, when enacting any law, be it through the process of enacting an ordinance or going through the route of act, do make sure that they cover all the loopholes. Like we had 4 ordinances, 2 of them were new, focusing on this one, the foreign assets that we are covering today, and the one we covered yesterday, focusing on the domestic assets, plus 2 amendment ordinances which amended the existing laws, the Economic Reform Act 1992 and the Income Tax Ordinance of 2001. So they pretty much tried to make sure that everything is covered, but because there is always a chance of a human error, a possibility something might be left out, or somebody might bring something up later on which was not so evident during the process. So the standard terminology is included, that the provision of this section shall have effect notwithstanding anything to the contrary contained in any other law for the time being enforced. In plain simple English, this overrides everything else. So application. The provision of this ordinance shall apply to all citizens of Pakistan wherever they may be, except holders of public office, their spouses and dependent children. Now this is very interesting. Why? I did discuss this point yesterday. For those of you just joining in today, I'll just briefly touch upon that. This means that all politically exposed person, the term being referring to the public office holders, their spouses and children, basically the dependents and close relatives, they are excluded within the ambit of this ordinance and amnesty. So yes, they cannot take benefit of this legally, fair enough, but they can also not be penalized under this ordinance, because this is a provisional clause. They are excluded from the ambit of this. So on one hand, they can't take the advantage, but on the other hand, they can't be penalized or required to do what all the other citizens of Pakistan availing this would be required to, for example, filing the statement of assets you have held abroad, or filing details of income you have earned abroad, even if that's not connected to Pakistan or not being repatriated. So those provisions would certainly not be applicable to politically exposed persons. Secondly, obviously, this is in connection with the foreign assets and foreign income. So the applicability of this ordinance is on all foreign assets held by the persons first mentioned in clause A, which we have already covered, and tax paid on the value of such assets under section 8, except where proceedings are pending in any court of law in respect of the foreign assets. So if you have a case in a court of law, maybe you are in litigation with the FPR vis-a-vis some foreign assets, so in that instance, you cannot avail this amnesty. What's the way? Sir, I want to do that. Well, there is one way. Reach some kind of an agreement, withdraw your case. But the question is, if the case is in your favor, you would not want to withdraw that, right? And if the case is in FPR's favor, FPR would not want to withdraw that. So practically, it would be pretty tough. But if you are able to do that, that's the way. You can't avail the amnesty as long as the matter is sub judice being the term referring to matter under judicial review. The provisions of this ordinance shall not apply to any proceeds or assets that are involved in or derived from the commission of a criminal offense. Now, this is an important clause because it ensures that the Anti-Money Laundering Act 2010 is still being upheld, and the requirements and obligations of Pakistan as a sovereign state with regard to combating the terrorism, the illicit monies, their financing, they are being addressed. So it's been made clear within this ordinance that any illegal monies cannot be used under the pretext or under the umbrella of this amnesty. Number 5, declaration and repatriation of assets held outside Pakistan. So, subject to the provisions of this ordinance, a person may make to the Federal Board of Revenue by the date specified in Section 6, which is 30th of June 2018. I can quickly show you that. So Section 6 is period of applicability. The declaration and repatriation under Section 5 shall be made on or after 10th of April 2018, but on or before 30th day of June 2018. So basically, this is a window of 2 months and 21 days. So a declaration can be made to FPR in respect of the foreign assets acquired before commencement of this ordinance. So another interesting point for you to observe, and this is actually in consistency what we saw yesterday with regard to domestic assets, that you can claim amnesty with regard to the assets that were held before the promulgation of this ordinance, which is up till 9th of April 2018. The value of a foreign asset shall be fair market value as defined in Section 2. And do you remember what was in Section 2? The value that the declarant is declaring would be presumed to be the fair market value. The declaration of the value and tax paid in respect of the foreign assets shall be in a manner as set out in Form A of the schedule to this ordinance. Let's quickly go to schedule because it would make more sense if we are going through the things and connecting them rather than waiting for the relevant sections. So this is Schedule A. It's quite similar to the form we saw for the domestic assets, and this is available basically online on FPR's website. Maybe later on we'll do a small section to show you how this would be actually done on the FPR's website. But basically, this is the form. A declarant would have to give in their personal info, full name, CNIC if they have NT, and contact details. And then they have to fill the amount in rupees and the applicable tax for the assets they are declaring. In foreign assets, we have these 4 categories: liquid assets, which are not repatriated to Pakistan, they would be taxed at 5%. Immovable assets held outside Pakistan, 3%. Liquid assets repatriated and invested in government securities would only be taxed at 2%, and liquid assets which are repatriated, even if they are not invested in government securities, would also be taxed at just 2%. So you just give a gross total and you attach the evidence of the tax paid, the bank challan, basically the CPR, computerized payment receipt, with this, and you're pretty much done. In the Form B, you just have to give a description of the assets, foreign assets you are declaring. If it's a foreign currency bank account, you provide the details. Then if there are any other assets, other liquid assets such as securities, stocks, promissory notes, government bonds, DCs, deposit certificates, or other similar investments, you provide their details. Any immovable property, you provide their address, size, and the jurisdiction, Switzerland, USA, UK, whatever it is. Then in the end, you sign this oath, the verification that it's pretty standard terminology. You are basically confirming on oath that everything that you have stated is true to the best of your knowledge and belief, and you have not concealed anything there. And you simply sign that, submit that to the FPR, done. You are legal. All the money would be wiped then. So let's go back to where we left from, section 5. Okay, so the description of the foreign assets declared under subsection 1 and 3 shall be in the manner as set out in the Form B, which we have already seen, and I believe you should be comfortable with. A person declaring foreign assets under subsection 1 may, by the due date, as specified in the very next section 6, also repatriate the said foreign assets in Pakistan. The declaration of foreign assets shall be made in the manner as set out in Form A of the schedule to this ordinance. ये मैं आपको पहले बता चुका हूँ कि electronically it's available on FPR's revenue portal, and it would only be valid if accompanied by the evidence of tax payment. We have discussed the period of applicability, 10th of April 2018 to 30th June 2018, and the charge of tax. The 4 categories, you are familiar with them by now. We just saw that in the declaration forms. But anyway, a quick review of section 7. If the liquid assets are not repatriated to Pakistan, you have to pay a tax at 5%. Immovable assets outside Pakistan, 3%. Liquid assets repatriated to Pakistan, and either they are or not invested in government securities, 2%. But this is actually a very attractive option for some people. It would certainly depend on your circumstances that you would be able to invest that in 5-year US dollar denominated government bonds with biannual profits twice a year and a rate of return of 3%. And let me tell you, these bonds are very hard to get. Not every investor is able to get their hands on them. So as part of the deal, you'll be able to get that should you want to. Obviously, if you have more attractive investment opportunities, perhaps you may not like to. Section 8 deal with the payment of tax. The due date for the payment of tax shall be the date on which the declaration is made. It's pretty standard and common sense, and this is very important. Section 8, subsection 2. No tax shall be payable by the declarant under any law for the time being in force, including the Income Tax Ordinance 2001, where tax has been paid under subsection 1 in respect of the foreign assets declared under section 5. So one of the most common question, will I have to pay tax on this later on this amount? No. In future, whatever you earn, certainly. So if you think about it, it is a pretty attractive deal, depending on the individual circumstances. Means someone might have paid in taxes in the range of 25 to 35%, and you are able to whiten your money for rates between 2 to 5%. So from their perspective, it's a very attractive scheme. And yesterday I did mention that Pakistan is not the only or the first country to launch such a scheme, although the timing is quite interesting. However, Malaysia, Indonesia, India have launched such schemes, some of which have been quite a success, especially the one in Indonesia. They did accompany that with some structural reforms in their taxation apparatus, and by running drives to induce confidence in the target segment, So perhaps these are the things which should be considered with regard to this as well, because this amnesty is not just important for Pakistan. Pakistani diaspora is based all over the world. Plus, you have to also think ahead in line with ACCA's strategy and think of the possible ramifications with regard to CPEC as well. Hopefully, we'll have some time at the end of the session and we'll cover that in a bit too. Section 9, currency and the rate of conversion. This is very important. The value of the foreign asset under subsection 2 of section 5 shall be in rupees. So the value you are declaring will have to be in rupees. The tax payable under section 8 shall be paid in the US dollars as specified in form A of the schedule to the ordinance. So that brings us to the interesting question. What would be the applicable conversion rate? Well, it should be pretty obvious to you, being the qualified accountants. The value in rupees under subsection 1 shall be converted to the US dollars at the State Bank of Pakistan's rate, applying between the US dollar and the rupee on the date the declaration is made under section 6 and the tax is paid under section 8. In plain English, on the date you make the declaration, State Bank's US dollar to Pak rupee rate would be used as the conversion rate. Nice and easy, nothing complicated. The mode and manner. The SPP shall notify the mode and the manner of the repatriation of liquid assets in Pakistan, deposit of tax in US dollars in State Bank of Pakistan, and the deposit of tax in rupees in the income tax account of the Federal Consolidated Fund. Incorporation in the book of accounts, where the declarant has paid the tax under section 8 and made a declaration under section 5, they would be entitled to incorporate this in the book of accounts, any such foreign assets. So basically what it's simply saying is that all these foreign assets would now be legitimate and you would be able to incorporate them within your accounts, within your income tax return, and anything, any record you may have to prepare for yourself or for the government bodies henceforth. Henceforth, be referring to the date when you make the declaration. For the purposes of the Income Tax Ordinance 2001, the cost of acquisition of foreign assets and the date of acquisition shall be deemed to be cost of acquisition, the value you declare. Date of acquisition, the date you declare. Again, nice and easy, nothing complicated there. Section 12 is interesting and 13 is very interesting. We'll be paying more attention to that. Investment in government securities under serial number 3 of the table in section 7 shall be made in accordance with the scheme to be introduced by the Government of Pakistan through the State Bank of Pakistan by notification in the official gazette specifying the periodic rate of return and the period for the rate of return and period of maturity. It's basically standard terminology giving State Bank the right to govern this investment area, because normally this is State Bank's domain. These government securities are governed and run by them. Confidentiality. Now this should dispel the apprehensions of many businesses. I was actually discussing with some of the key businessmen in the chamber this morning that how are you viewing this amnesty scheme? And what I realized was that there was a huge, tremendous lack of information. And there are serious misunderstandings. People certainly, businessmen hardly do that. It was obvious they haven't read the ordinance. But what was more surprising, it seemed like their financial teams haven't either, because they were coming up with ideas like maybe we would be taxed again. My accountant think after the amnesty I would be taxed again. So I told them, no sir, you won't be unless the law is changed or struck down by the court. Now that's an interesting question which we'll leave to the question answer session, that what can happen legally and how would the people availing this amnesty as of now would stand should they were to avail this right now. With regard to clause 13, confidentiality, notwithstanding the provisions of section 3 of subsection 3 of section 216 of ITO 2001 Income Tax Ordinance, the Right of Access to Information Act 2017, and other laws for the time being enforce particulars of any person making a declaration under this ordinance or information received in any declaration made under this ordinance shall be confidential. First thing, any declaration you make under this ordinance would be confidential, period. Subsection 2 of section 13. This is more interesting. Anyone who discloses the particular shall commit an offense punishable on conviction with a fine between 500,000 to 1 million or imprisonment for a term of up to 1 year or both. So it's as much security as possibly can be provided. You are declaring a value, nobody is questioning that. You just pay the minimal rates, it's fine. Then your information is confidential, it can't be shared. If somebody leaks that information, share that, they'll be committing an offense, seriously punishable, heavily in monetary terms, even with the jail, imprisonment, or even both. So it sounds like a pretty good blanket coverage. Perhaps the only thing that need to be done is some reforms with regard to taxation and creating more awareness on the pattern of Indonesia to make this a success. Declaration not admissible in evidence. This is even furthermore strengthening the protection provided under this ordinance to the potential declarants, that notwithstanding anything contained in any other law for the time being enforced, nothing contained in any declaration made under section 5 under this ordinance shall be admissible in evidence against the declarant. So basically, whatever you are submitting under this ordinance cannot be legally held as a proof in any proceedings against you. So how's that? What more protection can there be? Removal of difficulty. If any difficulties arises in giving effect to the provision of this ordinance, then the federal government is empowered to make such order in writing as is not inconsistent with the other provisions of this ordinance in order to remove such difficulty. Last but not the least, if you make any misrepresentation under this ordinance in a declaration, that shall be deemed null and void and deemed to never have been made under this ordinance. So if it can be proved that somebody made a misdeclaration, they lied, they misrepresented, then that's null and void. But the question would be, what mechanism can make that happen? So with that question in your mind, I'll go to our panelists for the question answer session. And can you please type your questions? Any questions that you may have, feel free to answer. Feel free to ask any questions that you have. And we have with us Mr. Munir Malik and Mr. Jawar Muhammad. Munir and Jawar, can you please unmute yourselves? Thank you. Munir and Jawar. So we have first question from Hadia Ijaz. When investing in government securities, there should be some more favor in rate. Well, it's a comment, but very quickly, Hadia, you'll be getting 3% extra return. Isn't that a favor? I think you need to give them a ping.
No, that's all right. And we had muted them, but you clicked it.
Okay.
Double click.
Okay, Munir Saab and Jawar Saab, do we have you with us?
Yeah. Yes.
Great. Okay, Munir Saab unfortunately need to leave shortly. So in this Q&A session, we'll be directing the questions to Munir Saab, and then in the next session, we'll be directing the questions to Jawar. Okay, the first question we have for you, Munir Saab, is by Ijaz Mazhar Saab. He's asking, in your opinion, is that fair to not to apply this ordinance to public office holders in perspective of them not declaring their assets either domestic or foreign?
Um,
Basically, he is asking the point that we referred, that when these politically exposed persons are provided a proviso and they are excluded, so Mr. Ijaz is asking, shouldn't they have been included at least in the requirements section to file their declaration? What's your perspective?
um, the, the basic reason for not being the part of this ordinance is that the politically exposed people are currently under investigations, differently held by different federal authorities, including National Accountability Bureau as well. So the perception is that they will get the benefit out of it, and they just introduce the amnesty for themselves.
I'll need to stop you, Munir. Let me rephrase the question. What Ijaz is asking is different. I mean, this is a common question you answered, but he's asking, shouldn't they have been required that you have to file a declaration of the assets you hold domestically and foreign, any foreign asset, without them still not having this opportunity, without them having the right to avail this? Is just asking, shouldn't this have been tighter for the politically exposed person, that on one hand they shouldn't have been able to take the advantage as of right now, but they should have been required to file their foreign and domestic assets and undeclared income?
Uh, my answer should be yes. Everyone should do that, and including those politically exposed persons as well.
Great, thank you. I would just add here, Ijaz, Munir Saab has supported your perspective and he said yes, they should have been included. Well, actually, there are already provisions in the income tax ordinance which requires them to do that. So, with regard to this ordinance, it's basically providing a way, and you have the benefit, and then you have the associated liability. So, with regard to them being required to file those returns, the law is already in existence. It's only a question of enforcing that law. The next question we have is from Mr. Hamid Khan. Hi, can you please share some regional country schemes? I think we have answered that, Munisa. We referred to Indonesia, Malaysia, India. Next one is from Muhammad Ali Shinwari. Why will someone disclose its hidden asset, either domestic or foreign, to government? Munisa.
The actual purpose of this amnesty is to get a one-time benefit out of it and just pay a nominal amount of tax of 5%. So if you don't and unable to disclose in the past, it is a good opportunity to bring those assets and bring your money white and legal as per the requirement of the laws in Pakistan. So there's an opportunity for them to do that.
Okay, so Munisab is saying because it's an attractive opportunity for them to whiten their money and just basically remove any irregularities that exist at a very nominal cost. Next, we have Shehbaz Makhdoom asking, why is the tax to be paid in US dollars when our currency is Pak rupee? Munisa, why you are getting the tax in Pak rupee, in US dollar? The national currency in Pak rupee is Pak rupee. Why are you getting it in dollars?
Yeah, the mode and the manner of payment as per the section 10 of this ordinance categorically explains that the deposit of tax in rupee in the income tax account of the federal consolidated fund only for those in dollars in State Bank of Pakistan. When you bring that money from outside Pakistan, it comes into the State Bank of Pakistan's dollar account, then it converted at the rate of the State Bank of Pakistan to your rupee account. So the benefit is giving to put that investment into the US denominated dollars bonds. Otherwise, you are absolutely right. It should be in Pakistani rupees, and it is as per the section 10 of this ordinance. But for those who want to invest in the US dominated denominated bonds, only for those they have to be through US dollars.
Okay, so Muniz Saab has just shared his perspective on this. Well, I would add that the entire reason for this amnesty, one of the largest justification was that Pakistan is currently facing a serious current account deficit in addition to the fiscal deficit. And Pakistan's foreign account reserves, foreign currency reserves currently stand at 11.3 or $4 billion, and with some major repayments, if we do not get the necessary inflows, then they can, as per IMF and certain monetary institutions, fall to 9.3 to 9.5 billion, which would be very critical come June. So one of the key aim was to shore up the reserves as well. So by having the tax in US dollar, this is basically in line with that aim, that you would be getting US dollars. With regard to Pak rupee, the state bank can print that. Yes, there would be problems. There would be higher inflation. The rupee would be devalued, etc. But they have the authority to value to print that. With regard to dollars, there are basically a few ways you can get that. Borrow the dollars, increase your export, so you get more dollars, or that there is repatriation of dollars in the country, foreign exchange is coming into the country. So this basically fall in the third perspective. Munisab Shehbaz Makhdoom Saab has also asked from you, what is the benefit of investing in government bonds when in fourth row of the Form A, it says foreign assets repatriated in Pakistan will also be taxed at 2%. So he's saying if I just repatriate my assets in Pakistan without investing, I'll still be taxed at 2%. Why should I even consider investing in government bonds? Is there any rationale? Is it attractive?
Absolutely. As rightly mentioned by you during the presentation, those bonds currently have access only to some highly selective investors, and most of the people around the world have no access to those. So if you being the part of that credit club, it would be an opportunity to be part of that. And on top of that, you will get additional rate of return on those bonds, which will make and cover the taxes paid by you here in Pakistan at the rate of 2%. So at net, you will gain out of it.
Very well elaborated. Thank you, Munisa. Next one is Muhammad Ali Shinwari asking, will this be continued irrespective of a change in government? Now you got a bouncer, Munir. Answer that.
Yeah, actually, before the change of government, this ordinance has to go through the eyes of the court of the law, because there are some applicants who already filed the petition challenging this ordinance in the courts in Pakistan. So before the change of government, we have to face it, and this is quite unfortunately that in Pakistan the things have changed with the government. The consistency in policy is a thing which ACC always
Advocates.
highlights and advocates in the past as well.
Great, thank you. Just a quick addition here that although you can't really comment on any sub judice matter, but the trend and the precedents have been that normally policies which have benefit people, if they are deemed illegal, they are stopped henceforth. It is very rare and extremely technical for a court of law to declare any national scheme or amnesty such as these as void ab initio. You can't really 100% be sure, because at the end of the day, a judge has to decide the matter. But the past trend and the precedents are such that normally it's done henceforth, which means that anyone who has availed it till now would still have the benefit. The case in point, if you do remember, in the era before the last government, there was an amnesty scheme with regard to customs and cars, and then that was challenged in the court, and then the final outcome was that the people who have availed got the benefit, but it was stopped henceforth. So just a point to give some confidence to the people concerned about this. Next one is from Taslim Faraz. Who will ensure that politicians and holders of public office get the benefit or not? So basically, the same is asking Munir that how would someone know that a person who is declaring under this ordinance is not a politically exposed person, especially when their information cannot be shared. It's a criminal offense to make that information public. There is a confidentiality clause, and there is no clear-cut public information about any potential criteria to vet the applicants.
Obviously, mm, the confidentiality clauses was added to give the protection to the people so that the information should not be made public and comes into the media as well. But yes, you are absolutely right. The checks are only available with the government, and they have the checks to make sure that those person should not avail that amnesty scheme.
Thank you. Irfan Ali is asking, when you are not asking the source of income, then how you can assure yourself that the money earned is not from any illegal activity? Well, he actually elaborated it from any drug-related or terrorist activity. So another good Yorker for you, Munir. Go
Yeah,
ahead with questions.
absolutely. Was up currently under the section 111 in the income tax ordinance in 2001. We have actually seen that source of income and source of funds coming in Pakistan is not being investigated as well. So that scheme is not different from the current income tax ordinance appearing as well. But this is giving a one-time opportunity to make the money wide. So yes, you are absolutely right. The source is always being questioned, not under this scheme, but in the ordinance as well.
Okay. The next one is from Mr. Usman Yusuf asking if foreign assets are bought from foreign earned income. Even then, does the individual need to pay the tax as foreign tax is already paid on while earning these income? Does it not result in double taxation? Okay, Munir, he's asking that if somebody has been earning a foreign source income, nothing to do with Pakistan, paid their due taxes, would they also need to declare those assets here and pay this tax? If they do, then wouldn't that be double taxation?
Um, if the person who earns the foreign income and paid the foreign tax, um, ideally they should declare those assets in the wealth statement in the past. But if they missed out, they can declare it in the upcoming statements and make sure that they have the evidence available for all the taxes paid.
Okay, thank you. And don't you think PEPs from declaration may reduce the confidence of excluding? Shabazz Makhdoom is asking, don't you think that excluding politically exposed persons from declaration may reduce the confidence of ordinary declarants in the scheme?
Actually, this will strengthen their confidence because the perception is that the scheme is being launched in the past for only to make sure that the politicians get the benefit out of it. So this is the first time the scheme is being directed to the only the businessman and not the politicians.
So Shabazz, on the contrary, it should serve to increase the confidence. Babar Khatuk is asking, do you have any insights into FPR's assessment vis-a-vis the potential revenue generation from this scheme?
Yes, as rightly mentioned by the Umar Saab in one of the question answer that Pakistan is in a serious trade deficit at the moment and balance of payments. So this scheme has helped the other regional countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, and India. If the scheme becomes successful, it will definitely help Pakistan as well.
Great. Do you have any figure, any thing you have heard, what they are aiming for, how many billions?
As per the study of the different professional firms from over the years, the Pakistanis have more than $100 billion dollars outside Pakistan in the form of the money which is not legally declared in the tax statements in Pakistan. So if that out of that 100 billion, some billions come in here, it will definitely help the country.
Great, fantastic. Shah Zaman is asking why the rate is so low. What are the chances of the success of this scheme?
Actually, you just need to see the background around the scheme. Not only in Pakistan, but around the world, there's a crackdown going on the illegal money. So that's the benefit the Pakistan authorities want to take. Because if we would not be able to offer the amnesty to them, maybe the money would not be come back to Pakistan, and maybe kept somewhere in the bank accounts outside Pakistan. So make the tax rate low is to just to attract them so that they can bring them in Pakistan, and from point forward, that money will help us.
Great. Adil Nasser is asking what will be the double entry for incorporating domestic or foreign assets in the book of accounts. So back to the school for you, Munir. The
Yeah,
double entry.
it would be basically you are declaring your assets definitely in the wealth statement, but on the other side, you have that luxury to not to disclose as an income, being the part of the income tax ordinance for the first, and that's the difficult part for an accountant to dissolve it.
Hmm. Well, I think one entry could be, for example, with regard to businesses, it could be you debit the assets that been declared and just credit them straight away into capital. So you have just bought that into the capital, and similar strategies can be used for individual. So that would serve the purpose. It would still hide the source if somebody doesn't want to declare that and balance the workbooks. You know, we accountants are actually, in fact, finance professionals is the term we use. We are very creative. We always find a way. Okay, next up, Muhammad Ali Shinwari is asking, Shivani, in fact, sorry, which class of people will be self-willing to disclose those assets to government on which they are not currently paying any taxes? Ali, I think Munisab has answered that already, that anybody who has undeclared wealth has this chance to remove the illegality at very low rates. So it should attract them should sufficient confidence be used in the scheme. Ijaz Mazhar is asking with regards to the annual tax filing, would the individual need to disclose assets in the statement other than the tax return? Munisa.
No, as mentioned in the ordinance as well, any information disclosed here is not being the part of the income tax ordinance, and you not need to disclose that in your income tax ordinance and the paid tax again.
True. Plus, the return is to be released around June, August or September, likely in September. So that's the pattern. By that time, all the thing would have been finalized. 30th June would have gone, and one would believe that, as you have also rightly pointed out, in the wealth statement there would be some additional columns to declare the assets that have been announced declared under this amnesty, which shouldn't really impact the tax calculation, just a declaration so that it can be included henceforth. So yeah, that's great. Ijaz Mazhar is also asking that other than Form A, which is believed to be filed before tax return, so that's part of that question you have answered. Babar Khatak is asking what alternatives FPR is likely to put in place if the scheme in question does not generate the desired results. So basically, Babar is saying if the scheme is not a success, what is the plan B of FPR?
If you read the budget proposal which the ACCS submits to the FBR, we mentioned there are lots of initiatives FBR has to take to make sure that the broadening of tax base should happen in Pakistan. Uh, but obviously, to tap the assets lying outside Pakistan is not easy for the FBR as well, because under the income tax ordinance, we are not required to investigate for the money beyond 6 years. So avenues currently available with the FBR is very less and few. So
Munisa, perhaps you would also like to refer here to the OECD convention which Pakistan has now signed, and FPR has the powers to request information from foreign authorities. That might also act as the plan B. Also with regard to the proposals, our proposals you just referred. Maybe you would like to expand on that.
Yeah, absolutely. The OECD convention with Pakistan has signed and is going to effect from the 1st of January 2017. The information sharing is going on, and FBR can take the advantage of that as well. But keeping in mind, this exercise is going to take lots of time and maybe years to come. And this is an opportunity to just have a assets coming in Pakistan in just a matter of few days. So
Mhm.
an ideal opportunity for those who want to make sure that the assets are legal and white.
Legal. Thank you. Muhammad Ali is also asking, is there any minimum amount that would have been waived, that is no tax, even then they were not declared before? So Ali even want a below taxable limit in this amnesty too. Ali, there is no such thing. Come on, it's just 2 to 5%. But the answer is no. Hadia Ijaz is asking how double taxation treaty concept affects amnesty taxation procedure. Manir sir.
Yep. This amnesty and is solely for the purpose of those assets who never been declared in the wealth statement in the past. Under the double tax treaty, the concept is that is to avoid the taxation two times for those entities who have operations in the foreign countries as well, and they are declaring their assets regularly in their statements in Pakistan. So we have to distinguish these two: the double taxation impact and this amnesty scheme.
Great. Usman Yusuf is asking, what is the purpose of this amnesty scheme? If you have legal money earned to purchase foreign assets, as criminal proceeds are not eligible under this scheme, why some pay tax on white money which he fails to declare? So you need to clarify this to Usman between the difference between monies gotten from illegal activities and the tax evaded money. Please.
Yeah, absolutely. If you are particularly sure that you have uh, uh, earned the money and pay the taxes on it and just fail to declare it, in the next time and by in the June or maybe September, you would have a chance to declare those in the valid statement, and then you can convince the tax authorities that you have paid the taxes. This scheme is for those who never paid taxes on the money and never declared that in the statements.
Great. Johri Lal is asking, I suppose double taxation treaty will help those persons to avoid double taxation on their legitimate income, which has already been taxed at foreign country. Yes or no?
For the double taxation, yes, but this scheme is, as I mentioned earlier, is different from that.
True. Irfan Ali is asking, what is the frequency of such amnesty schemes in different areas of the world? We are introducing such schemes time and again. Don't you think this scheme will encourage people to hide and wait for such schemes to legalize their money?
Yeah, that's the part which we need to consider it because we have witnessed that in the income tax ordinance, we have introduced a section on the cash withdrawal taxation from the bank accounts. We have introduced the concept of filers and non-filers, and the regional countries have done the same, but not for over the years, but for the 1 year only to get the data out of it, and then try to tax those peoples. We should not make this scheme as a part of the revenue generation, but this should be one of initiative to make sure that those who are unable to declare the money and unable to pay the taxes should pay them at once, and from point forward, you have the record of those people and make sure that those people being part of the income tax ordinance as well.
Great. Mohammed Iqbal, if new government make changes in ordinance that those who have declared their assets in the scheme will be accountable for tax evasion. Iqbal, I think this has been answered before. There are certain clauses in the constitution which prevent that a taxpayer or a beneficiary cannot be penalized retrospectively like that. If the parliament passes such a law, then there would be a big question of future confidence in the government initiatives. So, while there may be a chance of the scheme being stopped henceforth, whether it would be avoided ab initio or such measures would be introduced might not be that likely. Anyway, this has been answered before, discussed before. Usman Yusuf is saying, what is starting date from which undisclosed assets can be covered under the scheme?
Yeah, it was mentioned in the ordinance as well that undisclosed asset before the
10th
date of
of February. 10th of February. So Ijaz Mazhar is thanking. Salman is saying, I understand that the scheme is being introduced in hopes that it will counteract the deficit that we are facing, one of which is IMF loan. Now, IMF have strict anti-money laundering policies in place, including those relating to terrorism financing. Therefore, when we make payments to IMF using our revised assets newly declared, are we certain that IMF will not express its reservations over such money? Munisa.
Yeah, actually, the IMF is in the past as well is in the favor of these schemes because focus is always on to reduce the uh, deficit in the balance of payments to make sure that Pakistan have enough money to pay for their pay for its bills, and
Hmm.
this scheme will make sure that we get the required foreign exchange in the country, and the bills which is coming in the months ahead, as mentioned by the Umar Saab very rightly, Pakistan is able to survive those difficult periods.
Great. Thank you very much, Munisa. We do realize we have just run a bit over 5, and you have been very patient in answering the question. We thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much, Umar Saab, and thank you ACCA for being having a nice host for this wonderful session.
You're most welcome. Have a good day. Okay, guys, so let's move back to the session. How do I make this go away?
Minimize.
Okay, so this brings us to the Economic Reforms Amendment Ordinance 2018, which basically is just a one-pager released by the State Bank of Pakistan. It's available on State Bank's website as well, should any of you want to see the original. Okay, so promulgation of the Protection of Economic Reforms Amendment Ordinance 2018 has been done. It says authorized dealers may find enclosed a copy of the Protection of Economic Reforms Amendment Ordinance 2018, in terms of which Section 5 of the Protection of Economic Reforms Act 1992 has been amended. Why it has been amended? Because this amnesty basically requires certain protection vis-a-vis Section 1114 of the Income Tax Ordinance, which also ties up with the Economic Reform Act 1992. So accordingly, Para 1, subsection 4, Chapter 6 of Foreign Exchange Manual 2017 stands revised as under. Foreign currency accounts can be fed by remittances received from abroad, travelers' checks issued outside Pakistan, whether in the name of account holder or in the name of any other person, and foreign exchange generated by encashment of securities issued by the government of Pakistan. A foreign currency account of a citizen of Pakistan, resident in Pakistan, can also be fed with cash foreign currency only if the account holder is a filer as defined in the Income Tax Ordinance 2001. So basically, this is one of the reforms we discussed yesterday that has been enacted by way of this amendment in the Economic Reforms Ordinance 1992. What this says in plain simple English is, henceforth, no non-filer can operate a foreign currency account in Pakistan. All other instructions on this subject remain unchanged. All authorized dealers are advised to break the above instructions to the notice of their constituents and ensure meticulous compliance. So while if you are based in Pakistan, you are a citizen in Pakistan, resident in Pakistan, and you are getting foreign currency from abroad, you might be still able to receive that in your account, but you cannot go and deposit cash in your accounts. Which brings us to the next topic, which is the Income Tax Amendment Ordinance, which is the last of the 4 ordinances which we have to cover. And I think before we proceed onto this ordinance, which really should be the last topic of the day, let's have a few questions with Yawar Saab, who has been waiting very patiently. Yawar Saab, can you please unmute?
Yeah, sure.
Great. Thank you for waiting, Yawar. Good to have you here today.
Likewise.
So the first question for you is from Shahid Khalil Saab. He's asking, can corporates avail this amnesty scheme? Can you hear me, Yawar?
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Can corporates avail this amnesty scheme?
Hello?
Can you hear us, Yawar?
I'm not
Hello?
getting voice. Hello?
Okay.
Hello?
All right. Can other participants please confirm if they can hear us?
Yes.
Oh, all right. So
Something
that
with
means
Yawar.
something wrong with Yawar's side. Okay.
Apparel.
Question to us. Yawar, it seems that there's something wrong with your audio equipment. So as soon as you can double check your equipment, you can join us back. In the meanwhile, I think we can continue with the questions.
Yeah. So Shahid Khalil, you asked, can corporates avail this amnesty scheme? Yes, they can. We saw that in the ordinances we covered. Shah Zaman is asking, Pakistan is already in grey list, and by announcing this type of scheme, are we giving the world a chance to blacklist us? Well, not really, Shah Zaman. The thing is this, legally the ordinance protect by excluding any illegal monies. We have also discussed this point yesterday that yes, FATF may be interested in knowing what actual procedures and checks are there to ensure though no illegal monies go through this apparatus. So as long as those systems are in place, it shouldn't be a cause of concern. Usman Yusuf, what are the consequences of declaring assets in different periods under this scheme? That is 2014-15 or 15-16. Well, there is no time bar, Usman, so you can declare assets relating to any time period. This would be a fresh start for you at very low rates. Muhammad Iqbal is saying, if new government make changes in ordinance that those who have declared their assets in this scheme will be accountable for tax evasion, if new government make changes in ordinance that those who have declared will be okay. He has asked one question 4 times, really passionate. Okay. Iqbal Sahab, this has been discussed repeatedly, very briefly again. If the government would want to do that, it would have to ensure it passes through the parliament as an act of the parliament. But there should be serious consideration because that would create future interest in any legislation and offer by the government of Pakistan. The precedent has not been that, and even such a move can be challenged in the court of law. Normally, the patronage such scheme can be declared void henceforth. Declaring that void ab initio, though still possible, is very rare and difficult. So while you can't rule out any possibility, the chances are extremely slim, practically next to nil.
Hello,
So
are you getting me?
yeah, Yawar,
Hello.
can you hear us now?
Yes.
Great,
Sorry, I
welcome back.
think some interruption has happened. I don't know. Yeah.
No issue, no issue. So Yawar, are you ready?
Yeah. Are you getting me clearly?
Absolutely fine as anything.
Yes. Yeah.
Muhammad Iqbal is saying if new government make changes in ordinance that those who have declared again. Okay. Usman Yusuf has asked assets acquired before 10th of April, the end date. Well, Usman, that's actually the beginning date. Can be covered under the scheme. What will be the beginning date for assets purchased to be covered under the scheme? Yeah, but I think Usman is trying to ask that how long can you go back under this scheme? What is the
I think
earliest that you can declare under this?
I think the assets, if we talk about the assets, so it's about the current position, the current assets you are currently holding in your books of accounts, or you have not disclosed it. So अगर हम एसेट की बात करते हैं तो उसमें हम ये नहीं कभी कह सकते कि जी एसेट हमने पिछले 4 साल के डिस्क्लोज करने हैं. वट एवर वी आर होल्डिंग राइटली नाउ हमने उसी को डिस्क्लोज करना है, चाहे वो हमने 10 years पहले बाई किए थे, जब भी बाई किए थे. If we didn't disclose it, it means we have to disclose it now outrightly. So you can
Very
go back as back as you want.
precisely. Usman, Yawar has explained that to you, and there is no bar in the ordinance, so that even legally supports the answer. You can go back as much as you like to. Muhammad Zohair Chaudhary is saying, what if someone was a filer since 2010 and now wants to declare his or her assets and submit his or her updated returns? Is this amnesty equally beneficial for him or her to update their status? I believe what he's trying to say that somebody has been a filer since 2010, and there are two possibilities. One, they were underdeclared and now want to ensure that all their wealth can be whitened. Another can be that they did not possibly declare all the assets they held pre 2010. So he's asking, how would this amnesty be beneficial in these circumstances?
Well, अगर इस सवाल को, इस क्वेश्चन को आंसर हम करें तो इसको हम इस तरह से लेंगे कि अगर एक बंदे ने असल में आई थिंक हमें यहाँ पे टू चीज़ों को साथ लेके चलना चाहिए. एक डबल टैक्सेशन ट्रीटी है हमारे पास, और दूसरा ये एमनेस्टी स्कीम है. ठीक है, अगर आपकी कोई भी इनकम जो आपने अनडिक्लेयर की है और वो डबल टैक्सेशन ट्रीटी के अंदर कवर होती है एंड यू आर नॉट रिक्वायर्ड टू पे एनी टैक्सेस, तो वी हैव ऑप्शन टू रिवाइज अवर रिटर्न एज पर इनकम टैक्स ऑर्डिनेंस. लेकिन अगर कोई ऐसी चीज़ है कि जिसके ऊपर हमें टैक्स पे करना चाहिए था एंड वी डिडंट पे एनी टैक्सेस, तो उसके लिए फिर हमारे पास ये ऑप्शन है कि हम एमनेस्टी के अंदर कवर हो सकते हैं. तो इट डजंट मैटर कि 10 से आज तक कुछ भी डिक्लेयर नहीं किया, अगर वो 11 को बिलोंग कर रहा है, 12 टैक्स ईयर से बिलोंग कर रहा है, अगर आपने उस पर टैक्स देने हैं, then you have to avail the benefits of the amnesty and meanwhile has to revise your wealth statements or disclose it in the current wealth statement.
And what about the second instance where there has been an under-declaration?
They're under declaration. I think then you have to revise it. You have to declare it correctly on the fair market value.
Yeah, but if you declare that correctly on the fair market value, you would also fall within the particular clauses dealing with misdeclaration. So perhaps this amnesty can be a better option.
Yeah, I think this would be a better option. Definitely.
Great. Next, Noman Ali Shah is asking, making it compulsory for every resident, irrespective of his or her income level, to file income tax return. Is the government of Pakistan planning to differentiate between non-filer and filer while paying sales tax in future too? Basically, we discussed the reforms yesterday, and one was the PM announced that the move which has been in the Finance Acts before would actually be enforced, and every CNIC holder would be required to file return. So he is asking in the context of that is it fair to make it compulsory for every CNIC holder to file the return, and whether the government is planning to even introduce the filer non-filer concept in the sales tax too.
अच्छा, अगर हम इनकम टैक्स ऑर्डिनेंस को देखें तो हम जिन जिन लोगों ने रिटर्न फाइल करनी है, वी हैव सेक्शन 114 फॉर दैट. अगर सेक्शन 114 में if we are liable to file a return, then we are liable to file returns. उसको हम अवॉइड नहीं कर सकते. CNIC को NTN बना देने से हरगिज ये आपके ऊपर लाजमी नहीं हो जाएगा कि आपने रिटर्न फाइल करनी है जब तक आप सेक्शन 114 के गार्ड में फॉल नहीं कर रहे होगे. So
Which
if
is
you have
fine, but
CNIC,
what they have announced is that they are planning to make some changes, which certainly would mean that 114 would need to be amended as well, and they are going for every CNIC holder being required to file a return.
if this amendment has to be made in the ordinance, then we have to. And this would be a little unfair, yes, I would say yes. But if the amendment has been made, would have been made in the ordinance, we have to file the returns. लेकिन जो current status अगर हम देखें, current status हम देखें तो we have to follow section 114. If they put it there, then we have no other option.
Very true. And the answer to second question, Yawar?
Can you repeat it, please?
Sales tax. Yeah. Whether the government is planning to introduce differential rates in sales tax too for filers and non-filers.
ये चीज अभी तक तो सामने नहीं आई फाइलर और नॉन फाइलर के लिए. सेल्स टैक्स की बात कर रहे हैं
जी.
या अभी तक तो ये चीज सामने नहीं आई. ऑल्दो वी हैव द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ फर्दर टैक्स हियर. इफ द पर्सन इज नॉट रजिस्टर्ड तो उसको फर्दर टैक्स बिजनेस को पे करना पड़ सकता है. लेकिन अगर हम कंज्यूमर की बात करें तो आई डोंट थिंक कि ये कॉन्सेप्ट जो है वो इंट्रोड्यूस किया जाएगा कभी.
And would be very hard. I mean, think your local corner shop, Karyana shop, would have to buy a computer to check whether you are a filer every time you are buying grocery.
Yeah. They can check this thing, I think.
Even if they want to do something, as you rightly said, that can only be done on a corporate level. Okay, thank you. We have the next question from Usman Yusuf. What will be the rate of tax on foreign movable assets, that is vehicle, under the ordinance just covered? Usman, I think we have covered that in the ordinance. The rate in this instance, if you are just declaring that asset not bringing that to Pakistan, would be 5%. And if you liquidate that asset, bring that to Pakistan, then the rate would be 2%. The next question we have is, can Mr. Yawar explain to me the eligibility to submit the return as he mentioned as per section 114?
I think you need to see section 114 for that. It's a long list, and I don't think so. I can read out that list. I think you need to study section 114. It's a very long list. So, what can I say? Just download the ordinance and read it.
True. It pretty much covers all the possibilities. Practically, only widows, underage children, people who are not earning anything or don't own any property are the exceptions. Anybody else who is practically earning any income or owns certainly defined criteria of property, or even if they don't do now but have submit last year's return, criteria like that have been covered. So yeah, the best advice is, it's extremely simple in plain English. Download it. If you don't want to download it, the sessions on these are on ACCA's Vimeo and YouTube channel. Just go through the income tax ordinance session, or go through the filing section and you'll find all the details there. I think, Yago, you did on income tax ordinance this time, right?
Yeah. I've covered all the ordinance, and there is detail available on YouTube as well as on Vimeo.
Great, fantastic. So, is there any more question? If not, then we'll move back to the ordinance. That was the last question, and mashallah, we have answered all the questions. Great. Thank you very much, Yawar. We'll just finish off the ordinance, last ordinance now, and then at the end of that, we'll take some more questions. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.
So let's move back. With this, we have the last ordinance of the day, the Income Tax Amendment Ordinance. I believe you should all be able to see this comfortably and read it on your screens. Again, the standard terminology, the preface, that how this was enacted, under which clauses, The ordinance is called the Income Tax Amendment Ordinance 2018, and it came into force at once, which was 10th of April. Amendment of the ordinance in the Income Tax Ordinance 2001 in section 111. Just like I mentioned to you that all these things are tied up. With regard to amnesty, it was vital that an amendment in section 111 be made. However, the government also introduced a certain reform for which it was very important to introduce certain amendments in the income tax ordinance. One of the key reform that was introduced was, and ACCA take pride in that ACCA was the flag bearer of introducing the concept for that reform is, as you'll see in this section, the government has amended the infamous section 1114 so that people can now bring money up to $100,000, no question asked, no tax. But for big fishes, anything above $100,000, still the foreign exchange is important for the country, no tax, but the source would be asked. So effectively, trying to implement this in a phased manner to curb the misuse of this provision while trying to still retain the benefit vis-a-vis the foreign accounts, the foreign currency, foreign exchange we receive, and to tackle the current account deficit. So let's go through this. In section 111, for subsection 2, the following shall be substituted, namely, 2, the amount referred to in subsection 1 shall be included in the person's income chargeable to tax in the tax year to which such amount relates, if the amount representing investment money, valuable article or expenditure is situated or incurred in Pakistan, or concealed income is Pakistan source, and in the tax year immediately preceding the tax year in which the investment money, valuable article or expenditure is discovered by the commissioner and is situated or incurred outside Pakistan, and concealed income is foreign source. Basically, this ties up with another reform we discussed yesterday. This reform says that under section 111 now, if you do not declare your income and assets, be it domestic or foreign, and they are discovered in any tax year, there is no time bar. Practically, in the taxation laws, in income tax ordinance itself, in most of the areas, there is a time bar of 5 years. In few cases, it's slightly more and less, but generally it's 5 years. So now an amendment has been made in section 111 that if there is a discovery of undisclosed income in any tax year, it doesn't matter if it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 50 years ago, you'll still be liable. So that time bar is removed. In subsection 4, in clause A, after the word channels, the word not exceeding 10 million rupees in a year shall be inserted. So this ties up with the reform I mentioned in the intro. Basically, now you can bring to Pakistan amount up to this level without having to pay any tax or disclosing the source. In section 114, in subsection 1, clause B, in subclause, just bear with me. This is something funny happening with the system. Okay, it's fine now. Sorry about that. In section 114, in subsection 1 in clause B, in clause 8, the word or at the end shall be omitted, and in subclause 9, for full stop at the end, a semicolon and the word or shall be substituted, and thereafter the following new clause shall be added, namely, every resident person being an individual required to file foreign income and asset statement under section 116A. So section 114 has been amended to this extent that now every resident person who, if they fall within the categories required to file, are now required to actually file foreign income and asset statement under section 116A. So this basically addresses the objection that was raised by one of the participants that the politically exposed person are excluded from the periphery of this amnesty. And I told you that the insertions have been made. There are existing laws as well, which require them to file these statements. The question is not about the law not being there. The question is about actually enforcing the law and making sure this happens. So in subsection 2, in clause D, the word and at the end will be omitted. In clause E, full stop and semicolon. Okay, these are just semantics. Let's go to some substance. The clause that shall be added shall be accompanied with a foreign income and asset statement as required under section 116A. So again, even within the amnesty, as you have seen in the forms, the declaration form A and B, you have to give the detailed listing of the assets that you are declaring. In subsection 5 in the proviso, for full stop at the end, a colon shall be submitted, and thereafter the following second proviso shall be added. Proviso is basically another provision that you are adding. Clause provided further that the time limitation provided under this section shall not apply if the commissioner is satisfied on the basis of reasons to be recorded in writing that a person who failed to furnish his return has foreign income or on foreign assets. This is another amendment made for the same reform. Basically, when you make a reform, there are different laws that are being impacted, and you have to amend all of them accordingly. This is what we already discussed with the section 116A and requiring you to file the return, and amendment in 114 requiring you to ensure that you file the return, because if you don't declare your assets, even if they are foreign assets or domestic assets, and if they are discovered at any point of time, you can't claim a time bar. You can't say they were older than 5 years. You would still have to pay the due taxes. You would even be penalized. You may even have to face imprisonment in the worst case, especially if it becomes a case of tax fraud. So it's better to comply. Just try to educate your clients. After section 116, the new section 116A will be inserted, namely as follows. So this is the new section that has been inserted via Income Tax Amendment Ordinance 2018, Foreign Income and Asset Statement. Every resident taxpayer, being an individual, now focus, every resident taxpayer, being an individual having foreign income equal to or in excess of 10,000 US dollars, or having foreign assets with a value of 100,000 US dollars or more, shall furnish a statement hereinafter referred to as the foreign income and asset statement in the prescribed form and verified in the prescribed manner, giving the following particulars. So if you are a taxpayer resident in Pakistan and you have a foreign income of $10,000 or more, or foreign assets of $100,000 or more, you have to file this return outlining what? These things. Total foreign assets and liabilities on last day of the tax year, any foreign assets transferred by you to any other person during the tax year, and the consideration for any such transfer. The complete particulars of your foreign income, the expenditure derived during the tax year, and expenditure wholly and necessarily for the purposes of driving the said income. But do remember, this is only applicable to a taxpayer who is resident in Pakistan and who have ATL above taxable limit with regard to the income, foreign income being $10,000 and foreign asset being $100,000 or more. The commissioner may, by a notice in writing, require any person, being an individual who, in the opinion of the commissioner, on the basis of reasons to be recorded in writing, was required to furnish a foreign income and asset statement under Section 1, but who has failed to do so, to furnish the foreign income and asset statement on the date specified in the notice. So can't evade this. Commissioner can ask you, can discover any time, no time bar, all the penalties would be applicable. In Section 118, in subsection 1, again, they are semantics, word or a comma shall be substituted for word or. After figure 116, the expression or a foreign income and asset statement under 116A, if applicable, shall be inserted. These are just insertion to bring the ordinance in line with the newly introduced section. So if you go through the ordinance, it would make sense to you what they mean by replacing comma with or, etc. In subsection 2A, after the figure 116, the expression or a foreign income and asset statement under 116A, if applicable, shall be added. In section 182, in the table, in column 1, after serial number 1AA, and entries relating thereto in columns 2, 3, and 4, the following new serial number and entries relating thereto shall be inserted, namely. So this is a new entry in section 182 in the table in column 1, 1AAA, where any person fails to furnish a foreign asset and the income statement within the due date, such person shall pay a penalty of 2% of the foreign income or value of the foreign assets for each year of default. And this is with regard to section 116A. So basically a penalty has been introduced for the case where you fail to furnish this return. And let me tell you, it's quite high. 2% of the undeclared income or the value of foreign asset each year in default. In Schedule 1, in Part 1 for Division 1, the following shall be substituted: rates of taxes for individual. This is with regard to the reform regarding the tax slabs for individuals that we discussed yesterday, and I promised you I'll share today. Here you have. Well, congratulations. Instead of 4 lakh now, you have 12 lakh income which you can enjoy tax-free. So the new BTL below taxable limit would be 1.2 million. Welcome, Junaid. Junaid, can you mute yourself so we can unmute you when the question answer session begins? Thank you. So the first BTL limit has been increased to 1.2 million. So up to 1 lakh monthly, you would now you wouldn't need to pay any taxes now. If your income is between 1.2 to 2.4 million per annum, so this would convert to 1 to 2 lakh per month, you have to pay 5% of the amount exceeding 12 lakh. Where the taxable amount exceeds 2 million but does not exceed 4.8 million, you have to only pay 60,000 and 10% of the amount exceeding 24 million. So if your income is like 4.8 million, you are earning 4 lakh per month or 48 lakh per annum, you only have to pay 10% of 2.4 million. So that would come up to your 2,40,000 and 60,000. So you'll only need to pay 3 lakh on 48 lakh income. Do the maths, very attractive. Where the taxable income exceeds 4.8 million rupees, you have to pay a flat 1,80,000 rupees and 15% of the amount exceeding 48 million. We have Junaid who has joined us. Then we also have the rates of tax for association of persons, which have been revised as well. Taxable BTL is still the same for AOP. Unfortunately for you guys, it's not 1.2 million. It would still remain 400,000. For the others, you have this table, you have this ordinance. Do keep it handy. It would be very helpful for you. Provided that in the case of an association of persons, that is a professional firm, prohibited from incorporating by any law or the rules of the body regulating their profession, the 35% rate of tax mentioned against serial number 8 of the table shall be 32% for tax year 2016 and onwards. So if you are a professional firm where the regulatory body has prohibited you that you can't incorporate yourself, then if you are earning more than 6 million per annum, your rate of tax would be a flat 19,500 rupees plus 32% for amount exceeding rupees 6 million, and that would be applicable for tax year 2016 and onwards. Where the taxable income in a tax year other than income on which the deduction of tax is final does not exceed 1 million rupees of a person holding a NABDA, basically CNIC, or a taxpayer of the age of not less than 60 years on the first day of that tax year, the tax liability on such income shall be reduced to 50%. So for a senior citizen where the taxable income other than the FTR, final tax regime income, does not exceed 1 million rupee, your tax liability would be reduced by 50%. So that's the end of the income tax amendment ordinance, and we are near the end of the session for today. So if you have any questions, please shoot them. And meanwhile, I would like to welcome Junaid Abbas, another of our fellow member, who is also a member of our taxation committee, which I'm privileged to be heading. And Junaid has worked with us on the taxation proposals and in the committee. Welcome, Junaid. Thank you for taking time out today. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear and thank you very much.
You're most welcome. So let's begin with questions, Junaid. We have some questions coming for you regarding the amnesty scheme. So first of all, we have Mr. Johri Lal asking, under section 114, classes of insurance surveying covered not taxable person. It's not very coherent, Johri. Could you please resend and rephrase what you are trying to ask? Ijaz Mazhar is asking, yes, Mir Saab got the reference of disclosing of foreign asset income. Okay, that's a comment. Muhammad Ali Shivani is asking, what about the tax that has already been deducted from the salary of a person that lies now in the 0% bracket, that is 1.2 million? Junaid.
Yeah, I would say the new rates will be applicable for the upcoming tax year. So definitely the employers will be deducting tax accordingly. So you won't have to worry about this aspect. And I think we should just clarify here that the new rate and this amendment ordinance specifically pertaining to the rates would be applicable from July 1, 2018 onwards. And
yeah, we have clarified that, and Junaid has answered that rightly. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, okay. I thought would just reiterate that fact. Maybe someone missed out there.
Sure. Okay. There are two parts of the reform package and the amnesty. There are 4 ordinances that have been promulgated to ensure the amnesty, and some of the reforms are enacted. The amnesty has been enacted from 10th of April 2018 and is effective till 30th of April 2018. However, the taxation reforms, most of them, including the new salary rates, would be upcoming from the new tax year beginning 1st of July 2018, which basically means, Shabazz, that just like Junaid said, you don't have to worry about this because your previous income was rightly taxed and your new income would be taxed on the new rates. Next one is Shahbaz Makhdoom. So the categorization of salaried and non-salaried has now been abolished. Junaid.
Sorry, what's the question?
Mr. Shahbaz is asking whether the categorization of salaried and non-salaried has been abolished.
No, the categorization is still there. I mean, it hasn't been abolished.
True. Next, Jory Lal is asking, I understand tax slab for salaried is not correct. For example, if you calculate 10% on 2.4 million, it would be 240K plus 60K according to earlier slab, and the aggregate amount would be 300K. Instead, rupees 180K, which is mentioned in the slab. Jory, this is the new slab. This is the new, that one which has been announced by the PM, and this would be applicable from 1st of July. Usman Yusuf is asking, revised rates will be applicable to both salaried and business individual. Junaid sir? Usman sir is asking you whether these revised rates are applicable to both individuals and business individuals.
Yeah, they have a revised for both.
Salaried and business, both are covered.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Muhammad Hamza is saying, is there any chance that before start of the next year, the new tax slab is aborted?
I mean, you could comment better on that. But of course, things will have to pass through Parliament. That's what I believe. So there could be few changes. But what I have heard from my community that this won't be changed and this will be approved the way it is.
Great. There are 2 aspects to this. One is the legal and the other is practical. Legally, that has to go to Parliament, as you have mentioned, or through an ordinance. So the new incumbent government at the earliest can take office at the end of August or September or somewhere in August. So the rates would be enacted from 1st of July. So practically, it's highly unlikely that it can be abolished before that. And even going forward, such a move to be reversed can have certain implications. So yes, I agree with you, Junaid. Very less likely in terms of both legal procedures and the practicality that this can be abolished before next tax year. Next question is from Ahmed Jahangir. 1.2 million exemption limit is also for businesses. Ahmed, I think Junaid already answered that yes, this is for business individuals, not all businesses. So like if you are companies, you are corporate entity or AOP, no, this is not applicable to you. If you are a sole proprietor, yeah. Shabazz Makhdoom is asking, but it says tax rates for individuals and another table for AOP. There is nothing classifying them between salaried and non-salaried. For you, Junaid.
Maybe you just a bit clarification for them. So the rate would be applicable, as you just mentioned a few seconds ago, that the specific segregation is about corporate or businesses running in the form of AOPs, and all other individuals, whether they are salaried or they are non-salaried, they have been given the leverage of the new applicable tax.
True. We have another question from Mr. Jawaharlal, who is saying this amount is calculated on new slab. Please check the one in the slab of the Income Tax Amendment Ordinance 2018. Okay, sure. We'll do that, Jory, if we have a time at the end of the session, or I'll be sharing my contact detail. You can feel free to shoot me an email and I'll definitely get back to you. SN Iqbal is asking, wow, quite a name.
Yeah, I was just about to comment.
Great. Do you still need to declare your foreign income, which has been declared abroad, but is not taxable, as it is below the annual taxable threshold? Junaid sir.
I think I should comment. You should comment on that. I mean, you're
Okay.
better in a better position.
Essence of, we just read about section 116A. There are two things, whether you are claiming this amnesty or not. If you are claiming this amnesty, you have to declare all. If you are not claiming this amnesty, even otherwise going forward, section 116A has been inserted in the income tax ordinance, which now required that if you are a resident taxpayer in Pakistan. So the first question would be whether this income is while you have been non-resident or you are resident working here for some foreign company. If you are resident and your taxable income is $10,000 or more, then yes, you need to declare. Even if you are resident and your taxable income is less than $10,000, but your undeclared foreign assets are more than $100,000, you would need to make a declaration. If not, there are severe penalties and there is no time bar with regard to that. Okay, SN Iqbal Saab is resident in Pakistan. Where are you based, SN Saab? In Islamabad? Somewhere near the Constitution Avenue? On a lighter note, no, our SN Saab is based in Lahore. Okay, let's move on. Next question is Muhammad Ali Shewani. Will the public office holders have to disclose their assets under 116A? Junaid?
Yeah, of course, the disclosure is required. I mean, but the exemption and all that stuff has been specifically mentioned that those who hold a public office, this isn't applicable. Specifically, the amnesty scheme. I'm not sure if he is asking about that thing. That amnesty scheme is not applicable for those public office holders. But other than that, yeah, regarding disclosure, etc., they would have to disclose them.
True. So very rightly said. Yes, 116A doesn't make any difference between PEPs, politically exposed persons, and or not. So under 116A, if you are above ATL, above the taxable limit, you have to file, you have to disclose. Doesn't matter you are a politically exposed person. But yeah, if you are talking about amnesty, then section 116A is irrelevant. Under amnesty, you have to declare if you are availing. If you are a politically exposed person, legally you can't avail and can't declare. But come the next tax return season, you would have to declare. So next, Usman Yusuf, kindly differentiate between an act, an ordinance, and the rules. Thanks. Would you like to answer that, Junaid?
Yeah, the ordinance has to be passed by the parliament, and after the approval of parliament, it becomes an act. till approval from the till approval of ordinance from the parliament, it isn't called an act and it cannot be enacted. So that's a major differentiation regarding approval from parliament. And you can
And
maybe extend that, yeah. You can extend on
great. What about rules?
rules are made by the secondary bodies. Like for example, rules income tax rules are made by the Federal Board of Revenue. Yeah, Federal Board of Revenue. So act is passed by the parliament, and then income tax rules are promulgated by the Federal Board of Revenue in coordination with all other relevant entities, like some maybe some withholding agents which have been authorized by the so
Very well, Junaid. Well done. I would just add here that basically Act and Ordinance tell you what the law is, and rules are the practicalities. How would that happen? For example, you have to file a return. How would you file that? You have to pay the penalty. How would you pay that? So the law is enshrined in the ordinance or the act, and how you would actually practically do that is detailed in the rules. Let's move on to the next question. It's by Muhammad Hamza. If an individual is not resident and does not apply for amnesty, uh, wants to become filer, but wants to become filer, what will be the procedure? Also, will there be any penalty for late filing? Junaid.
yes, there will be penalties. I mean, relevant penalties will be levied. But is he asking for becoming filer?
Yeah, he's saying that if someone is non-resident and
Yeah.
they don't even want to avail the amnesty as of now, what is the process for them to become filer? And when they
They,
file the return, would they have to pay any penalty for late filing, anything like that?
yeah, they'll definitely have to file their returns if they want to become filer, and whatever whenever they file the returns and FBR's active tax list is updated, like it's updated every Sunday. So after that update, their name will be included in the filer list.
Great.
Yeah.
Very well said. Perhaps you'll also like to expand on this point that if they are registering for the NTN for the first time,
Yeah.
then in the first time they would not have to pay any late filing penalty. However, if they were registered for NTA with NTN before and there was a gap and they were not filing returns, then legally FBR has the option to impose the penalty. But practically, if they have not issued a notice and you are complying and filing return, then the practical standard has been that you are not issued a penalty notice unless there comes a gap in your compliance.
Agreed.
So with that, we'll move on to the next question by Shaukat Siddiqui Saab. I'm a non-resident. May I need to submit income tax return and wealth statement? I have no income in Pakistan. Junaid Saab.
If you are non-resident, you are of course not required to do so, but some people still prefer to do so, just because they have some kind of some transaction in Pakistan, and it is being heard that in the coming budget there will be more benefits for becoming a filer, and there would be certain kind of transactions where only filers would be allowed to do that stuff. So it would be better if we all do return filing, and there is no harm in filing a return even if you are non-resident, because you have some practical ties to the country, and you were born in Pakistan and you are a Pakistani. But of course, yeah, if you are from legal aspect, if you are a non-resident, then there is a legal
Good.
liability for you.
We are losing your voice, Junaid. Can you get the mic closer to your mouth?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect now.
Okay.
Okay, great. So very well answered. Another point which I'd like to add is that perhaps you'll also need to see whether you have some property based in Pakistan or not. And depending on that, you should be able to reach a more practical decision with regard to your own circumstances. As Junaid has shared, there has been a continued trend of developing filer versus non-filer, which is expected to continue. Great session. Keep it up, ACCA Pakistan. Samayullah, thank you. Muhammad Usman, how wealth statement filed in previous years will reflect the changes made under the amnesty scheme. They will not, Usman, you are not required to revise your previously filed bill statement. Muhammad Hamza, thank you. Muhammad Hamza, just confirm at this time, I only have to file 1 year tax return or 2 year return for becoming a filer, in continuation with my previous question. Junaid, same guy who asked about not availing the amnesty and becoming filer. So he's saying whether I need to file just for 1 year or 2 year to get in the ATL.
Yeah, he'll have to file the last year tax return, or at least, and if he did have some operations in the year prior to that, it's better to file a return for that year too.
Great. So the answer is, Hamza Saab, that you'll only need to file for 1 year to get in the active taxpayer list. But if you have any operations, any income related, or any other activities in the country, it's better to file for the year before. Ali, informative session. Shaukat Saab, thank you. Thank you, guys. We still have a few minutes. Hamza Saab, okay, thank you. Okay, we have another question. We have a few minutes, so if you have some questions, make use of the time. Johari Lal, could you please, could you guide how to get refund check, which a person has already claimed, but even after Holi, didn't get the refund check. Today, how would you get refund check from FBR?
I would first of all start praying, and I.
Okay.
जुनैद को अनम्यूट कर दें.
कर दें. अब वही कर.
Okay. Sorry about this. Junaid, continue, please.
There was some issue. I was saying that first of all, I would start praying that I do get a refund, and the second step would be like keep trying, and maybe of course there will be a day when government will issue refund. That was on a lighter note. Yeah.
Okay, Junaid is on a lighter mood. He has said keep praying. There would come a day you'll get the refund. I would suggest, Jory, Junaid is right. It's very challenging to get the refund, but it's not impossible. However, it varies case to case. Whether you're talking about an individual, a corporate entity, what is the volume, what is the section, all these things, if properly pursued, there are certain ways you can still get the refunds. So if you are interested about your specific case, as I promised, I'll be sharing my contact details in a while. Feel free to send your query, and inshallah, I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Ijaz Mazhar is thanking everyone. Thank you, ACCA team, for these sessions. And I think we are done with the questions. I'll just wait for a few seconds. If somebody has any more questions, we actually also have another honorable member of our taxation committee joining us, Mirza Fasiuddin Beg Sahab. So if you guys have any question, we can ask him too. Fasi, you came very late. We have literally answered dozens and dozens of questions.
Yeah.
Murtaza Barucha, thanks. Muhammad Iqbal, without paying speed money, you can get refund. Muhammad Iqbal, you may be very surprised, but let me tell you this. Even without paying speed money, you can get refund. Murtaza Barucha, thanks. Very informative. Okay. Any other? Okay, we have a question from Muhammad Ali. Junaid, if you could mute yourself and let us have Fasi Saab answer this question so that he can also participate in the session. And thank you very much for your contributions. Fasi Saab, if you can unmute your mic, please.
But also, please move to a quieter room.
Okay. Are you there, Fasi Saab? He's self-muted. Okay, the question is by Muhammad Iqbal Saab. Oh no, that was done by Muhammad Ali Shivani. If you have done an irrelevant question, please. How can someone be a member of ACCA tax community? Okay.
That's something that you can answer. Or
Okay.
maybe I can answer.
Sure. How can someone be a member of ACCA tax community? Okay, the term we referred to was ACCA tax committee. You are all member of ACCA tax community, being ACCA professionals. How to become a part of ACCA taxation committee is, if you do have a good profile, you have been working in the field, you are experienced, from time to time, we invite expression of interest. In fact, one is planned for the next week as well. So you can respond to that, and then ACCA reaches out to you, and hopefully you can spare some time and contribute. It is basically voluntary work. All these members take time out of their personal schedule to serve the whole fraternity. So look out for the email next week, respond if you want to be a part of it, and we would love to have you on board. Next one is by Usman Yusuf. Under which head of income tax online challan for amnesty scheme will be generated? I think Fasi Saab is not available, so let's ask this from Yawar. Yawar, can you unmute your mic, please?
Ji sir. Hello.
Yawar, we have a question for you. Usman Yusuf Saab is asking, under which head of income tax online challan for amnesty scheme will be generated? I believe he is trying to ask that when you generate the e-challan, which head would you select?
आई थिंक अभी तक जो है वो हमने ऑनलाइन चालान कोई क्रिएट नहीं किया. होपफुली इन लोगों ने ये ऑप्शन प्रेजेंट कर दिया हो. जब हम ई चालान बनाते हैं तो वहाँ पे ऑप्शन आ रहे होते हैं कि आपने रिटर्न के साथ पे करना है, आपने विद होल्डिंग का पे करना है. तो होपफुली ये एक ऑप्शन इंसर्ट कर दिया होगा या कर देंगे उस सिस्टम के अंदर. आई थिंक सो. इफ यू कैन आंसर दिस क्वेश्चन.
Sure. Thank you, Yawar. Very well answered. इसमें आपके पास दो ऑप्शंस हैं. जब स्पेसिफिक आपके पास ऑप्शन ना अवेलेबल हो, जब तक इंट्रोड्यूस ना हो, you can always select this being a tax, income tax. You can either go for income tax or the option of others. I would advise income tax till the time it's inserted. We were told that it would be inserted by today, so hopefully it would be by now. If not, and you want to do it quickly, although you still have time, then you can straight away select income tax, because this is income tax that you are paying along with this amnesty, and you simply attach that challan with your application form while filing it through FPR's portal. Okay, Muhammad Iqbal says it's a surprise for me. I know, Iqbal sahab, people can get refund by speed money is a surprise for many, but it still happens. We are full of surprises. Muhammad Usman Ali is thanking, Ali Sahab is thanking you, Yawar, for the answer. And I guess that's the end of the session. So with this, as promised, you have the contact details on your screens. Feel free to send an email. You have any specific query, you want to get in touch. If you send a WhatsApp message or an SMS, please do introduce yourself and mention you attended this session. I'll then get back to you as soon as possible. And now, before handing over to our regional head of member affairs, Arun Jan Saab, I would like to thank all our panelists today, Junaid, Fasi, Yawar, Munir, who spared time out of their busy schedule on a working day and became a part of this, so all of you can benefit. And thanks to ACCA, which has been the first professional body to conduct these sessions, CPD sessions on these very timely topics, to set the trend and the bar high for the members. And we hope these have been beneficial for you, and keep updating us with your comments about the sessions you'd like to see. Thank you very much for sparing the time, and I'll now pass on this to Arun sir.
Yes, thank you very much. And to begin with, I'd like to appreciate the entire taxation subcommittee that was working under the kind leadership of Umar Zahir. I think the subcommittee has done a phenomenal job, not just preparing the budget proposal, which we are actively now, ACCA Pakistan's budget proposal, which we are actively promoting to all the relevant individuals. It has been shared with all the ACCA members who are active, around 5,500 individuals. It has been sent to most of the CFOs in Pakistan and almost all the regulators, around 1,500 such individuals. So that has been done, and that's, I mean, the credit of that purely goes to the taxation subcommittee. I would also like to share with all of you that the interest in local taxation I mean, when we used to discuss ACCA, the qualities of ACCA members indoors within the ACCA circles, we always used to say that ACCA members need to have better grip over the local taxation. And let me share with you that Umar as an individual and all the subcommittee members and Yawar also, they've done a phenomenal job in raising the bar of the taxation knowledge within ACCA members across Pakistan. And that once again is a very, very commendable job. And we are actively going out now promoting our members as tax experts to the regulators, to the ministry, and to various other forums. So that's very important.
You might like to mention about Miftah Saab's.
Yes, and Umar had the honor of meeting the finance minister only earlier in the week on Monday.
Representing ACCA, presenting
yes,
ACCA's budget.
Yes, as a representing ACCA and carrying the ACCA budget proposal with him. And Miftah Saab was so impressed with the work that the subcommittee had done and Umar had done that he'd invited ACCA and the representative of the taxation subcommittee to his office for a one-on-one conversation around the upcoming budget. So I think that's a big success. And I think there are going to be many more successes like this going forward. In our previous meeting with the State Minister for Finance, ACCA has pitched that we would want to be on various think tanks around taxation in Pakistan, and this proposal of ours has readily been accepted, and we will hopefully be invited to many other active tax forums going forward. Now with the government change, I think we'll have to press a reset button once again. If the same government comes back, we'll continue. If the government changes, we'll have to maybe kickstart a bit, but I think the foundation has already been laid. One very important announcement, and since there are quite a few ACCA members sitting here with the taxation interest, we had successfully created a LinkedIn page for tax advisory, I think around 4 months ago. Now, and all these talented, brilliant tax professionals who are the part of the taxation subcommittee are already a member of that LinkedIn page. Now, all we had to do was to openly announce this page to all the members to join in, and regularly on a routine basis, ask questions, ask for advice, consult each other, share opinions, share the latest developments around the taxation field. So I think that is going to be a very, very interesting move. And I think outside of the UK, in Pakistan, this is going to be the first, within the ACCA community, it's going to be the first such forum which is going to help its members to, to get advice on important tax matters. So I think in the time to come, and hopefully within the next week, we will be able to announce that LinkedIn group, and we would love if all of these members who have an interest in taxation could join in and regularly be in contact with our taxation experts. So that was all I had to share with you.
Can you please come here?
Yeah. All right. Okay.
In the end, before Harun Saab says goodbye, on behalf of all the ACCA members, we would like to thank you for your phenomenal work and the support. This wouldn't have been possible without you.
Thank you very much. Thank you indeed. Excellent work, and I think this is an excellent idea as well, where they brought in the entire subcommittee to talk to the membership base. Thank you to all other taxation subcommittee members as well for your time and for your effort. I think this work is exemplary, and from this point onwards, we go step by step towards, making ACCA members more tax savvy. Tax savvy, not tech savvy, tax savvy also.
True.
Great. Thank you very much. And that's all from here. Please share your feedback with us about this session, about yesterday's session. And last announcement, we will be sharing your certificates with you, hopefully by tomorrow. The handouts you would have downloaded and certificates either tomorrow or early next week, you will receive them in your email. Thank you so very much for your interest, and take care of yourself. Have a nice week.